Hello there. Welcome back to Dreamland Science. Tonight, we are going to explore something so close to you that you might have forgotten it was there. Your senses. The gentle brush of fabric against your skin. The faint scent of the evening air. The quiet hum of the world as it settles into stillness. Your senses are not just tools for navigating the day. They are ancient doorways, each one carrying its own quiet invitation to rest. And tonight, you do not need to memorize anything. You do not need to stay awake. If you would like to close your eyes and simply listen, that is perfectly fine. Some of these facts may stay with you like quiet companions. Others may drift past like clouds. Either way is exactly right. If you enjoy this kind of gentle journey, perhaps you might consider subscribing. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. So let your body settle into wherever you are right now. Let your breathing find its own slow rhythm. And let us begin with the first and perhaps most intimate of all your senses, the sense of touch. Your skin is the largest sense organ you will ever own. Your skin covers nearly 2 square meters of your body, making it the single largest organ you possess. It is not merely a barrier between you and the world. It is a living, breathing landscape of sensation, covered with millions of receptors that quietly monitor everything around you. Long before your eyes open each morning, your skin is already feeling the warmth of your blanket and the softness of the pillow. Researchers at the Karolinska Institute in Sweden have mapped the extraordinary density of these receptors. A single fingertip alone contains roughly 3,000 touch sensors. Across your entire body, that number reaches into the hundreds of millions. Imagine your skin as a vast, quiet meadow in the early morning. Each blade of grass bends gently with the breeze, and each small movement is registered, noticed, felt. Nothing dramatic, just a steady, gentle awareness. Perhaps you might notice the places where your body meets the surface beneath you right now. The weight of your arms, the warmth where your hands rest. Each point of contact is a small reminder that you are supported. And within this quiet awareness, your skin continues its ancient conversation with the world. A conversation that began the moment you were born and has never once stopped whispering. Hidden beneath your skin are special nerve fibers designed only for gentle, affectionate touch. In 1995, scientists discovered a remarkable class of nerve fibers nestled in the outer layers of your skin. They are called C-tactile afferents. Unlike the fast-firing nerves that detect sharp pain or sudden pressure, these fibers respond to one thing only: slow, gentle, caring touch. They are your body's built-in receptors for tenderness. A team led by Professor Håkan Olausson at the University of Gothenburg confirmed that these fibers fire most actively when the skin is stroked at a speed between 1 and 10 centimeters per second, the exact pace at which a parent naturally strokes a child's arm. Think of a quiet river running just beneath the surface of still water. Invisible, but always there. These gentle touch fibers are like that hidden current, waiting patiently for the kind of contact that says you are safe. Perhaps you might notice your jaw softening just slightly. There is no need to hold any tension there. Let the muscles around your mouth and chin ease, as gently as a leaf settling onto water. And as these fibers listen beneath your skin, they carry their quiet message inward, not to the thinking brain, but to something older, something that has always known what comfort feels like. These gentle touch nerves respond best at the exact speed of a loving caress. The optimal firing rate of C-tactile afferents occurs between 1 and 10 centimeters per second. What makes this remarkable is that this speed matches almost precisely the rate at which humans instinctively stroke each other's skin. It is not learned behavior. Parents around the world, across every culture, caress their children at this exact pace without ever being taught. Researchers at Liverpool John Moores University found that when touch falls outside this range, too fast or too slow, the pleasure response drops significantly. Your body has a built-in preference for a certain rhythm of gentleness, written into the very wiring of your nerves. Imagine the way a soft breeze moves across the surface of a lake at dusk. Not rushing, not still, just that perfect, unhurried pace that makes the water shimmer without disturbing its calm. Perhaps you might notice your shoulders beginning to lower, just a fraction. They may have been carrying more weight than you realized. Let them soften. Let them ease. Whenever you feel ready, and somewhere within this gentle rhythm, your nervous system recognizes something familiar, a pace it has known since before you had words for comfort, since before you could name what kindness was. When C-tactile fibers fire, they send signals straight to the emotional brain. Most touch signals travel to the somatosensory cortex, the part of the brain that identifies where and what you are feeling. But C-tactile afferents take a different path entirely. Their signals bypass the analytical brain and travel directly to the posterior insular cortex, a region deeply connected to emotion, empathy, and a sense of well-being. A study using functional MRI at the University of Gothenburg showed that gentle stroking activated the insula far more than the primary touch processing areas. This means gentle touch is not primarily about information. It is about feeling safe. It is like a path through a forest that does not lead to the busy village square, but instead winds quietly toward a hidden garden, where everything is still and warm and unhurried. Perhaps you might notice the space behind your forehead softening. The small muscles there may be holding a furrow you did not even know was there. Let them ease. Let the skin of your brow become smooth and calm. And so the signal travels, not to the part of you that thinks, but to the part of you that feels, carrying a message so simple it needs no translation. You are held. You are safe. You can rest. A single soft touch can trigger a quiet cascade of oxytocin. When C-tactile fibers send their signal to the emotional brain, something beautiful happens. The hypothalamus responds by releasing oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding molecule. This is the same chemical that flows between a parent and newborn, between partners in a long embrace, between any two beings who share a moment of genuine warmth. Research at Claremont Graduate University, led by Dr. Paul Zak, has shown that even brief episodes of caring touch can raise oxytocin levels measurably within minutes. And with oxytocin comes a softening of the muscles, of the heart rate, of the vigilance that keeps us alert. Imagine the way morning sunlight slowly fills a room through gauze curtains, not arriving all at once, but spreading gently until everything is bathed in warmth. Perhaps you might notice the muscles in your hands loosening. If your fingers are curled or your palms are tense, you might allow them to open, just slightly, as if you were releasing something you no longer need to hold. And with each quiet pulse of oxytocin, the body softens a little more, a gentle reminder that you were designed not only for alertness, but also beautifully. For rest. Newborn babies placed skin to skin show dramatically calmer heart rates. In hospitals around the world, a practice known as kangaroo care has become standard for premature and full-term infants alike. The newborn is placed directly on the parent's bare chest. Skin meeting skin, almost immediately. The baby's heart rate steadies, breathing deepens, and crying softens to quiet. A landmark study published in Pediatrics in 2016 confirmed that skin-to-skin contact reduces cortisol levels in newborns by up to 72%. The baby does not need to understand what is happening. The skin itself delivers the message of safety. It is like two candle flames placed close together. They do not merge, but their warmth extends, overlapping, creating a shared glow that is greater than either one alone. Perhaps you might notice the center of your chest softening. There may be a tightness there you have been carrying without awareness. Let it ease, gently, like a door opening just enough to let a warm breeze through. And in that first contact between parent and child, we see something profound. The body's oldest language of comfort requires no words at all. Only closeness, only warmth, only the quiet courage to be still. The palms of your hands contain no gentle touch fibers at all. This may seem surprising. Your palms are exquisitely sensitive. They can detect textures as fine as a single thread of silk. But the nerve fibers responsible for that extraordinary precision are discriminative touch neurons, designed for exploration and identification. The tactile afferents, the fibers tuned to gentle, affectionate contact, are found only in hairy skin. Neuroscientist Francis McGlone at Liverpool John Moores University explains that this distinction reveals the two purposes of touch. Your palms are for doing, grasping, exploring, creating. The skin of your arms, back, and scalp is for being, for receiving comfort and connection. It is like the difference between a busy harbor filled with boats and the open sea beyond it. Both are water, but one is for working and the other for drifting. Perhaps you might notice your feet. They have been supporting you all day, and perhaps they are ready to rest now. Let them be heavy. Let them settle into whatever surface holds them. And so your body carries within it two kinds of knowing. One that reaches out to touch the world, and one that simply receives the world's touch, gently, gratefully, without asking anything in return. Stroking someone's arm feels more soothing than holding their hand, and science now understands why. Because tactile afferents are concentrated in hairy skin and absent from the palms, a gentle stroke along the forearm activates the emotional touch pathway far more powerfully than a firm handshake or even a handhold. The arm, the back, the shoulders, these are the surfaces designed to receive comfort. A study at the University of Gothenburg measured the difference directly. Slow stroking of the forearm produced significantly greater activation in the insular cortex compared with palm stimulation, even when the pressure and speed were identical. Imagine the difference between tapping on a window pane and trailing your fingers along the surface of still water. Both are touch, but one simply informs, while the other seems to speak to something deeper. Perhaps you might notice the back of your neck. It may be holding tension from the day, a quiet tightness that you can soften now. Let the muscles there release, as though a warm cloth has been placed gently across them. And in this quiet distinction between grasping and receiving, your body reveals its secret, that comfort does not come from holding on, but from allowing yourself to be gently held. Your scalp holds a particularly rich network of comfort receptors. Among all the surfaces of your body, the scalp contains one of the densest concentrations of C-tactile nerve fibers. This is why a gentle head massage can feel so deeply, almost unreasonably pleasant. The receptors there are wired specifically for slow, caring contact, and your scalp has more of them per square centimeter than nearly anywhere else. Research, published in the journal Cortex, found that scalp stimulation produced some of the highest pleasure ratings of any body region tested. The effect was most pronounced when the touch was delivered at the signature C-tactile speed of 3 to 5 centimeters per second. Imagine a soft rain falling on a garden at twilight, each drop landing gently, unhurried, absorbed quietly into the earth. That is how your scalp receives gentle touch. Perhaps you might notice the muscles around your eyes. They may be slightly tense without you realizing. Let them soften. Let your eyelids grow just a little heavier, as though the weight of the evening is settling gently upon them. And in this rich landscape of receptors, your scalp holds a quiet truth, that some of the deepest comfort in life arrives not through grand gestures, but through the simplest, most tender contact. Having your hair gently brushed activates pathways that reach deep into the brain's relaxation centers. When someone brushes your hair slowly, the movement stimulates thousands of C-tactile fibers simultaneously. The rhythmic, repetitive nature of brushing adds another layer. The brain begins to predict the pattern, and with prediction comes a lowering of alertness. The combination of gentle touch and steady rhythm creates a uniquely powerful, calming effect. A study at the Touch Research Institute at the University of Miami showed that repetitive, gentle touch reduced cortisol and increased serotonin in subjects within just 15 minutes. Hair brushing combines both tactile pleasure and rhythmic predictability. Think of the way a gentle current combs through long strands of seaweed beneath the surface of a calm sea. A slow, steady, patient movement that never rushes and never stops. Perhaps you might notice the muscles along the sides of your neck releasing. There may be a quiet stiffness there that has been building for hours. Let it melt away now, slowly, like frost dissolving in the first warmth of morning. And as the brush moves and the rhythm repeats, something inside begins to unwind. A quiet unwinding that does not ask for effort, only for the willingness to let go. Primates spend hours grooming each other, not for cleanliness, but for the sheer comfort of being touched. In troops of baboons, macaques, and chimpanzees, social grooming accounts for up to 20% of waking hours. Scientists initially assumed this was about hygiene, removing parasites and debris, but the time spent far exceeds what cleanliness requires. The real purpose is social bonding and stress reduction. Evolutionary anthropologist Robin Dunbar at the University of Oxford found that grooming triggers endorphin release in the recipient, creating a neurochemical reward that strengthens social bonds. The groomer benefits too. Cortisol levels drop in both parties during extended grooming sessions. Imagine two old trees standing side by side in a forest, their roots intertwined deep beneath the soil, not competing, but quietly supporting each other through seasons of wind and rain and sun. Perhaps you might notice the weight of your arms resting wherever they are. They may be holding themselves up, even slightly. Let them go heavy. Let gravity take them completely. And in this ancient behavior, shared by our closest relatives, we see something deeply familiar. The need to be touched gently is not a luxury, but a quiet necessity woven into the fabric of who we are. A warm embrace lasting at least 20 seconds triggers a measurable wave of calm in both bodies. When two people hold each other for 20 seconds or longer, something begins to change in both nervous systems simultaneously. Oxytocin levels rise, cortisol levels fall, heart rates slow and begin to synchronize. The embrace does not need to be tight. It simply needs to last long enough for the body's chemical messengers to respond. Neuroeconomist Dr. Paul Zak at Claremont Graduate University has measured this threshold repeatedly. He calls it the 20-second hug, the minimum duration needed for oxytocin to begin flowing in meaningful amounts. It is like the way a stone dropped into a still pond sends ripples outward in every direction. Small, quiet, but reaching further than you might expect from such a gentle beginning. Perhaps you might notice the muscles across your belly softening. The abdomen often holds tension we are not conscious of, a kind of quiet bracing against the world. Let it release now, gently, breath by breath. And in the quiet arithmetic of 20 seconds, the body discovers what the mind sometimes forgets: that being held is not weakness, but a homecoming, a return to the oldest form of safety there is. The simple weight of a hand resting on your shoulder can lower stress hormones within minutes. Touch does not need to be dynamic to be healing. A still, warm hand placed on the shoulder, without stroking, without pressure, just resting, is enough to engage the body's parasympathetic response. The skin detects the warmth. The tactile fibers register the gentle pressure. Together, they send a signal that says, someone is here, and you are not alone. A study published in Psychological Science found that the mere presence of a partner's hand on the arm reduced the brain's threat response during a stressful task. Touch did not remove the stress. It changed the brain's interpretation of it. Imagine a lighthouse standing at the edge of a rocky shore. It does not calm the sea, but its steady glow tells every passing ship that someone is watching, that the way is known. Perhaps you might notice your temples. There may be a slight tension at the sides of your head. Let it soften, as though the pressure is being gently lifted away, like a hand smoothing the surface of wrinkled silk. And perhaps this is what gentle presence teaches us, that sometimes the most powerful comfort asks for nothing at all. Only stillness, only being there. Premature babies who receive gentle touch gain weight faster and leave the hospital sooner. In neonatal intensive care units around the world, a protocol called Gentle Human Touch has been shown to produce remarkable results. Premature infants who are gently held and stroked for just 15 minutes, 3 times a day, gain weight 47% faster than those who receive standard medical care alone. This was demonstrated in a groundbreaking study by Dr. Tiffany Field at the Touch Research Institute in Miami. The touched infants also showed more organized sleep patterns, reduced cortisol, and were discharged an average of 6 days earlier. It is like a young seedling in a greenhouse, given warmth and the gentlest attention. It stretches toward the light with a confidence it could not find in the cold alone. Perhaps you might notice your lower back. If there is any tension pooled there, let it dissolve now, slowly, like warm water spreading across cool stone, and in the smallest, most fragile bodies, we find perhaps the clearest proof that gentle touch is not merely pleasant. It is a kind of nourishment, as real and as necessary as food, as air, as light. Your body runs two separate touch highways, one fast for danger, one slow for comfort. Your nervous system contains two distinct pathways for processing touch. The A-beta fibers are fast, myelinated, efficient, designed to send urgent information about pressure, vibration, and potential harm at speeds up to 75 meters per second. The C-tactile fibers are slow, unmyelinated, unhurried, carrying their signals at just 1 to 2 meters per second. Neuroscientist Håkan Olausson describes this as a dual system. The fast pathway tells you what is touching you. The slow pathway tells you how it feels, whether the contact is safe, caring, and welcome. Imagine two paths through the same forest. One is a paved road, straight and fast, built for urgency. The other is a winding trail, dappled with sunlight, where every step invites you to slow down and notice the beauty around you. Perhaps you might notice your legs growing heavier. They have carried you through so much today. Let them rest now. Let them sink into the surface beneath you, supported and still. And somewhere between speed and slowness, between urgency and ease, your body maintains a beautiful balance, always ready to respond to danger, but equally ready, when the moment is right, to melt into peace. The comfort pathway travels slowly, like a river finding its way home, while the fast-touch fibers race their signals at highway speed. The C-tactile pathway moves at a walking pace, 1 to 2 meters per second. This means that when someone strokes your arm, the emotional impact of that touch arrives a fraction of a second after you have already identified the contact. The comfort comes as an afterglow, a slow, gentle wave that follows the first recognition. This delay is not a flaw. Researchers at Linköping University in Sweden believe this timing may actually enhance the emotional experience. The brain first registers the touch, then receives the emotional reward, creating a sequence that feels like recognition followed by reassurance. Picture a river moving through a wide valley, not rushing toward its destination, but wandering gently, touching every bank, nourishing every meadow it passes through on its unhurried way to the sea. Perhaps you might notice your wrists relaxing. The small muscles and tendons there carry more tension than most people realize. Let them go soft, as if they have been gently untied. And in this beautiful slowness, we discover something the modern world often forgets: that the deepest comfort is never in a hurry, never rushing, always arriving exactly when it is needed most. Warm hands are more soothing than cool ones, because temperature and touch share the same comfort circuit. When warm skin meets warm skin, two sensory systems activate together. The C-tactile afferents respond to the gentle pressure, while thermoreceptors respond to the warmth. Both signals converge in the insular cortex, amplifying the sense of comfort beyond what either could produce alone. A study published in the journal Neuroscience Letters demonstrated that touch delivered at skin temperature around 32 degrees Celsius, produced the highest pleasure ratings and strongest insular activation. Cool touch, even at the same speed and pressure, was rated as significantly less pleasant. Imagine holding your hands near a small fire on a quiet winter evening. The warmth does not demand anything of you. It simply radiates, and you simply receive. And in that exchange, something ancient and wordless passes between the flame and your skin. Perhaps you might notice your toes. They are often the last part of the body to let go of the day. Let them uncurl, one by one, as gently as petals opening in the morning sun. And so warmth and touch speak the same language. A language older than words, older than memory. A language your body has spoken and understood since the very first time you were held. Even imagining a gentle touch can activate the same brain regions as real physical contact. Your brain does not always distinguish clearly between a touch that is happening and a touch that is vividly imagined. Neuroimaging studies have shown that when people are asked to close their eyes and imagine being gently stroked on the arm, the insular cortex, the same region activated by real tactile input, lights up in response. Research conducted at University College London found that imagined affective touch produced measurable changes in heart rate and skin conductance. The body responded as though the touch were real, even though no physical contact had occurred. It is like the way your mouth waters when you imagine biting into a lemon. The body cannot help but respond to what the mind believes is true. Perhaps you might notice the skin across your ribcage softening. With each breath, the ribs expand gently, and with each exhale they settle back. And in that rhythm there is a rocking, a cradling, that has been with you since before you were born. And so perhaps, even now, as you listen to these words, your skin remembers what it means to be gently touched, and the memory alone is enough to carry you a little further toward rest. Deep within your brain, a region called the insula quietly connects gentle touch with emotional safety. The insular cortex sits hidden within the folds of the brain, tucked between the temporal and parietal lobes. It is one of the brain's great integrators, processing not only touch, but also emotion, body awareness, and the feeling of being present in your own skin. When tactile signals arrive here, they are woven together with everything you feel about yourself in this moment. Neuroscientist A. There, Craig at the Barrow Neurological Institute has described the insula as the seat of the sentient self, the part of the brain that gives rise to the feeling of simply being here, alive, embodied. Imagine a quiet room at the center of a large house, a room where all the hallways meet, where every sound is softened and every light is gentle. That is the insula. Perhaps you might notice your cheeks softening. The muscles of the face hold more expression than we realize. Even in stillness, let them ease. Let your whole face become smooth and calm. And deep within this hidden room, your brain is doing something extraordinary. It is taking the simple fact of being touched and transforming it into the profound feeling of being safe. Cats and dogs instinctively seek your gentle touch because it genuinely calms their nervous system too. The tactile system is not unique to humans. Many mammals possess similar slow-conducting nerve fibers that respond to gentle stroking. When you pet a cat and it begins to purr, or when a dog leans into your hand and its eyes grow heavy, what you are witnessing is parasympathetic activation, the same rest and digest response that gentle touch triggers in you. A study at the University of British Columbia found that just 10 minutes of petting a dog or cat significantly reduced cortisol levels in university students. The animals, too, showed measurable physiological calming. It is like two instruments playing the same quiet note, separate, yet resonating together, each amplifying the other's calm. Perhaps you might notice your hips settling deeper into the surface beneath you. There may be a subtle tension there that you have been carrying without awareness. Let it ease. Let gravity do the work. And perhaps this is one of the gentlest truths of all, that comfort is not a solitary experience, but a shared one, flowing back and forth between beings, like a tide that knows no shore. The practice of healing through gentle touch appears independently in traditions across every continent on Earth. From the laying on of hands in early healing traditions, to the practice of Reiki in Japan, to therapeutic touch in modern nursing, humans have always understood intuitively that gentle contact carries a power beyond the physical. Long before anyone had heard of tactile afferents, cultures around the world discovered the same truth through observation and care. Medical anthropologist Dr. Daniel Benner has documented over 200 distinct healing touch traditions across more than 40 cultures. The specific beliefs differ, but the underlying practice is remarkably consistent. Slow, gentle, intentional contact offered with compassion. Imagine a thread that runs through every tapestry ever woven by human hands. Different colors, different patterns, but the same thread connecting them all. Perhaps you might notice your ankles. They pivot and flex thousands of times a day without complaint. Let them rest now. Let them feel heavy and still and perfectly supported. And across continents and centuries, through every language and every belief, one truth emerges again and again, that the gentle laying of one hand upon another is perhaps the oldest medicine the world has ever known. Your lips hold more touch receptors per square centimeter than anywhere else on your body. The lips are extraordinarily sensitive, roughly 100 times more densely packed with touch receptors than the skin of your back. This density serves many purposes. It helps infants find nourishment, guides the precise movements of speech, and plays a role in the intimate language of affection. Researchers at the University of Birmingham have shown that the lip region occupies a disproportionately large area of the somatosensory cortex, the brain's touch processing map. This phenomenon, called cortical magnification, means your brain devotes more processing power to your lips than to your entire torso combined. It is like a tiny lantern that holds more light than a much larger lamp, small in scale but extraordinary in what it perceives. Perhaps you might notice your palms softening. If they are pressed together or curled inward, let them open gently, as if you were offering something invisible to the quiet air around you. And in the sensitivity of the lips, we find a reminder that some of the most powerful perceptions come not from the largest organs, but from the smallest, most delicate surfaces, attuned to the subtlest whisper of the world. Gentle pressure just behind the ear can activate the vagus nerve and quietly slow your heart. Behind each ear, running along the mastoid bone, lies a branch of the vagus nerve, the longest cranial nerve in the body. The vagus nerve is the primary conductor of the parasympathetic nervous system, responsible for lowering heart rate, deepening breathing, and shifting the body from alertness into rest. Auricular vagus nerve stimulation has been studied extensively at institutions including the University of Leeds. Researchers found that gentle, Steady pressure on this area produced measurable decreases in heart rate and increases in heart rate variability, both markers of parasympathetic activation. Imagine a dimmer switch for a room full of bright lights. One gentle turn, and everything begins to soften. Not darkness, but a warm, golden glow that invites you to settle in. Perhaps you might notice the space between your shoulder blades. There is often a knot of tension held there. Let it soften now. Let that space widen and ease. And behind each ear, quietly, a single nerve waits. A nerve that connects your face to your heart, your breath to your calm, offering a path to stillness that has been there all along. When two people hold each other closely, their heart rhythms begin to gently synchronize. Interpersonal physiological synchrony is the term scientists use for a phenomenon that has been observed again and again when two people are in close physical contact. Their heart rates, breathing patterns, and even skin conductance begin to align. The bodies start to mirror each other, falling into a shared rhythm. A study published in Scientific Reports in 2017 used dual electrocardiogram monitoring to measure this effect in couples holding hands. Within minutes, their heart rates began oscillating in phase, rising and falling together, as though conducted by the same invisible hand. It is like two boats anchored side by side in a calm harbor, rocking gently on the same tide. Not identical, but moving together with a quiet, shared rhythm. Perhaps you might notice the whole length of your spine. It has been holding you upright all day. Let it rest now. Let each vertebra stack gently upon the one below, and let the whole column soften into the support beneath it. And in this synchrony, perhaps the body knows something the mind is still learning. That closeness is not only emotional, it is physical, measurable, real. Two hearts learning to beat as one. Right now, in this very moment. Your skin is having a quiet conversation with everything it touches. As you lie here, your skin is in constant dialogue with the world. It registers the temperature of the air, the weight of your blanket, the softness of the surface beneath you. It detects the faintest draft and the gentlest pressure. It knows where your clothing meets your body and where your body meets the bed. All of this information flows inward, continuously, without any effort on your part. And within this ongoing conversation, your tactile fibers are listening too, registering every point of gentle contact and quietly feeding their ancient message to the emotional brain. You are here. You are held. You can rest. Imagine the night sky filled with stars, each one a tiny point of contact between the universe and your gaze, each one silently offering its light without asking anything in return. Perhaps you might allow your whole body to soften now, from the crown of your head to the soles of your feet. Let every muscle that has been holding on find permission to release. You have carried enough today. This is a moment for letting go. And as we leave the gentle world of touch behind, your senses begin to open another doorway, one that leads through the quiet, ancient pathways of scent, where a single breath can carry you to a place of calm you may have forgotten existed. Your sense of smell is the only sense with a direct highway to the emotional brain. Every other sense you possess, sight, sound, touch, taste, sends its signals through a relay station called the thalamus before reaching the cortex. But smell takes a different route entirely, Olfactory neurons connect directly to the limbic system, the ancient emotional core of the brain, without passing through any intermediary. This means that a scent can reach your emotional brain in as few as 2 synapses. Neuroscientist Rachel Hurst at Brown University has described this pathway as the most direct sensory-emotional connection in the entire human nervous system. No other sense has such immediate access to the regions that govern memory, emotion, and calm. Imagine a secret door hidden in a garden wall, while every other visitor must walk the long path around. This door opens directly into the quietest room of the house. Perhaps you might notice the rhythm of your breathing right now. Not changing it, just noticing it. The gentle rise and fall of your chest, the soft movement of air through your nose. Each breath is a small, quiet arrival. And through this ancient shortcut, every scent you have ever known has found its way straight to the heart of who you are. Bypassing thought, bypassing language, arriving as pure feeling. Scent bypasses the thalamus entirely, the only sense to take this ancient shortcut. The thalamus is often called the brain's relay center. It receives incoming sensory data, processes it, and decides what reaches conscious awareness. For vision, hearing, touch, and taste, the thalamus is mandatory, a checkpoint that every signal must pass through. But olfactory signals skip this checkpoint altogether. Research published in the journal Neuron by Shepard and colleagues at Yale University has confirmed that olfactory projections reach the amygdala and hippocampus without thalamic mediation. This is an evolutionary relic. Smell was the first sense to develop in early life forms, and its direct pathway predates the thalamus itself. It is like a river that found its course long before the dam was built. It simply flows beneath, through channels carved so long ago that even the landscape has forgotten they exist. Perhaps you might notice your jaw releasing just a little more. The muscles around your mouth and chin may still be holding. Let them soften, as though the warmth of a gentle breath is dissolving every small point of tension. And in this bypass, this ancient shortcut, we glimpse something profound, that long before your brain learned to think, it already knew how to feel. Lavender has been shown to reduce cortisol levels by 12 to 15%. Of all the scents studied by modern science, lavender is perhaps the most thoroughly documented for its calming effects. Linalool, the primary compound in lavender essential oil, has been shown to act on gamma-aminobutyric acid receptors in the brain, the same system targeted by many calming medications. A meta-analysis by Coulivand and colleagues, published in Evidence-Based Complementary and Alternative Medicine, found that inhaling lavender consistently reduced salivary cortisol by 12 to 15%. Subjects also reported lower anxiety scores and improved sleep quality. Imagine a field of lavender stretching toward a distant horizon, the soft purple rose swaying gently in an evening breeze. The air is thick with fragrance, and with each breath, the world grows a little quieter. Perhaps you might notice the muscles across your forehead smoothing. There may be a subtle furrowing there that you can release now, letting the skin become as calm and open as still water. And within this single flower, chemistry and comfort converge. A small, purple reminder that nature has always known how to quiet the mind. The scent of vanilla is one of the very first smells a newborn ever recognizes. Vanillin, The primary aromatic compound in vanilla is present in trace amounts in breast milk. This means that for many infants, vanilla is among the earliest scent memories formed, associated from the very beginning with nourishment, warmth, and the closeness of a caregiver. Researchers at the University of Strasbourg demonstrated that newborns as young as 3 days old showed a clear preference for vanilla scent over neutral odors. Their breathing slowed, their movements quieted, and their faces relaxed. All signs of parasympathetic activation. It is like a lullaby written not in notes but in molecules. A melody so familiar that even the youngest listener recognizes it without ever having been taught. Perhaps you might notice the center of your chest. There may be a warmth there, or a softness, or simply a quiet awareness. Let it be. Let it expand gently with each breath. And in the scent of vanilla, we find something beautifully circular. A fragrance that means safety, because it was the first thing you ever smelled when safety was all you knew. Smell creates the strongest and most emotional memories of all your senses. Because olfactory signals arrive directly at the amygdala and hippocampus, the brain's emotion and memory centers, scent-triggered memories carry an emotional intensity that no other sense can match. A visual memory might be detailed. An auditory memory might be accurate. But a scent memory is felt deeply, viscerally, and often without warning. Psychologist Simon Chu at the University of Liverpool found that memories triggered by smell were rated as significantly more emotional and more vivid than memories triggered by words or images, even when the events recalled were equally old. Imagine opening a forgotten drawer and finding a scarf that still holds the faintest trace of someone you love. The memory does not arrive as a thought. It arrives as a wave, sudden, complete, and achingly tender. Perhaps you might notice your hands growing warmer. Warmth often moves to the extremities as the body relaxes. Let it happen. Let the heat spread gently through your fingers. And so the nose remembers what the mind may have forgotten. And in that remembering, we are carried back, gently, to places and people and moments that shaped who we are. A single familiar scent can carry you decades into the past in an instant. This phenomenon is known as the Proustian memory effect, named after the French writer Marcel Proust, who described being transported to childhood by the smell of a Madeleine cake dipped in tea. What Proust described poetically, neuroscience has since confirmed. Olfactory-triggered autobiographical memories are typically older, more emotional, and more immersive than those triggered by any other cue. A study at the Monell Chemical Senses Center found that scent-triggered memories most commonly originated from the first decade of life, a period scientists call the reminiscence bump for olfaction. It is like a door that opens not to another room, but to another time, and you step through it before you even realize you have moved. Perhaps you might notice the weight of your eyelids. They may feel heavier now than they did a few minutes ago. That is perfectly natural. Let them rest at whatever level feels most comfortable. And somewhere in the quiet library of your memory, every scent you have ever known is filed away, waiting patiently for the day it drifts past again, ready to carry you home. Night-blooming flowers release their fragrance specifically when the world grows quiet. Certain flowers, jasmine, moonflower, evening primrose, night-blooming cereus, have evolved to release their strongest fragrance after sunset. This is not coincidence. These plants are pollinated by nocturnal creatures, moths, bats, and night-flying beetles, and their scent is a beacon in the darkness. Botanists at the Max Planck Institute have shown that fragrance emission in these species is regulated by circadian genes, peaking precisely when their pollinators are most active. Imagine a garden at midnight, perfectly still, except for the faintest stirring of warm air. And then, gradually, a sweetness begins to rise, not from any visible source, but from the flowers themselves, offering their fragrance to the night like a whispered secret. Perhaps you might notice the muscles along the sides of your neck softening. They have been quietly working all day, holding your head in place. Let them ease now. Let your head feel heavy and supported. And in the quiet generosity of these night-blooming flowers, there is a lesson that some of the most beautiful things in the world reveal themselves only when everything else has grown still. Chamomile binds to the same brain receptors as mild calming medication. Chamomile contains a flavonoid called apigenin, which binds to benzodiazepine receptors in the brain, the same receptors targeted by pharmaceutical anxiolytics. The binding is gentle, partial, and produces none of the side effects of medication. But the calming effect is measurable and consistent. A randomized, controlled trial at the University of Pennsylvania found that chamomile extract significantly reduced generalized anxiety symptoms over an 8-week period. Participants who consumed chamomile showed lower cortisol and reported improved sleep quality. It is like a key that fits a lock so gently it barely makes a sound, turning not with force, but with the quiet precision of something that was always meant to belong there. Perhaps you might notice your belly softening, the diaphragm, the great dome of muscle beneath your lungs, may be holding subtle tension. Let it release, and feel the breath deepen naturally, without effort. And in this humble flower, brewed into tea for centuries, we find a gentle pharmacy, one that asks nothing of you except to sit and sip and let the quiet arrive. The scent of cedar has been used for centuries to create feelings of groundedness and calm. Cedarwood contains a compound called cedral, which research has shown to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. When inhaled, cedral decreases heart rate, lowers blood pressure, and promotes a state of quiet alertness that gradually deepens into relaxation. A study published in the Japanese Journal of Pharmacology found that cedral inhalation significantly reduced sympathetic nerve activity in sleeping subjects, suggesting that the scent promotes deeper, more restorative sleep phases. Imagine standing at the base of an ancient cedar tree, its trunk wide enough to shelter you, its bark rough and warm beneath your hand, its branches reaching upward into a canopy so dense that the sky becomes a soft, green glow. Perhaps you might notice your lower back releasing. If there is any remaining tension pooled there, let it dissolve now, slowly, like morning mist lifting from a forest floor. And in the scent of cedar, we find something that feels like roots, a deep, quiet connection to the earth that reminds the body it is safe to be still. Petrichor, the smell of rain on warm earth, triggers a deep, ancestral comfort. That distinctive scent that rises from the ground after the first rain on dry soil has a name, petrichor. It is caused by a compound called geosmin, produced by soil bacteria and released into the air when raindrops strike the earth. The human nose is extraordinarily sensitive to geosmin. We can detect it at concentrations as low as 5 parts per trillion. Evolutionary biologists at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology suggest this sensitivity evolved because the smell of rain signaled the end of drought and the renewal of resources. A scent that meant survival. Imagine standing on a dusty road as the first drops of a summer rain begin to fall. The earth exhales, and a fragrance rises that is older than language, older than memory. The smell of the world refreshing itself. Perhaps you might notice your shoulders dropping another fraction. They may have crept upward again without your knowing. Let them fall gently, like leaves settling after a breeze. And in this ancient scent, something deep within recognizes what rain has always meant. That after every dry season, after every long wait, relief eventually arrives. A newborn can recognize its own parent's scent within hours of being born. Within the first 12 hours of life, a newborn can distinguish its parent's scent from that of a stranger. When presented with 2 cloth pads, one worn by the birth parent and one by an unfamiliar person, infants consistently turn toward the familiar scent, their breathing calmer and their movements quieter. Research at the University of Montpellier confirmed that this recognition is mediated by the olfactory system's direct connection to the amygdala. The scent is not processed as information. It is processed as safety. It is like a compass that does not point north, but points toward home. And home, for a newborn, is the scent of the person who holds them closest. Perhaps you might notice your feet settling deeper into stillness. They may feel warm, or heavy, or simply at rest. Whatever they feel is perfectly fine. And in this earliest act of recognition, we see something that will remain true for a lifetime. That the people we love carry a scent that our deepest brain recognizes as belonging, as safety, as home. Your nose can distinguish between over 1 trillion different scent combinations. For decades, scientists believed the human nose could detect roughly 10,000 different odors. But in 2014, researchers at Rockefeller University overturned this estimate dramatically. Using combinatorial analysis of scent mixtures, they calculated that the human olfactory system can distinguish at least 1 trillion unique scent combinations. This makes your nose one of the most sophisticated sensory instruments in the natural world, rivaling the resolution of your eyes and far exceeding the discriminating power of your taste buds. Imagine a vast library with 1 trillion books, each one containing a single sentence, and your nose can walk through it and recognize every volume by its cover alone. Perhaps you might notice your ribcage expanding more freely now. With each breath, the ribs lift gently, and with each exhale they settle. And in that rhythm is a rocking so gentle you might barely notice it. And within this quiet miracle of discrimination, your nose carries a wisdom that exceeds calculation. A sensitivity so vast that it can read the invisible language of the world, 1 molecule at a time. Rose oil has been shown to gently lower both breathing rate and blood pressure. Damask rose oil, extracted from Rosa damascena, contains over 300 aromatic compounds. Among them, citronellol and geraniol have been shown to modulate the autonomic nervous system, gently shifting the balance from sympathetic alertness toward parasympathetic calm. A clinical trial at Mahageg Ardebili University in Iran found that patients who inhaled rose oil before a medical procedure showed significantly lower blood pressure, slower respiratory rates, and reduced anxiety scores compared to a control group. Imagine a single rose petal resting on the surface of a still pool. So light, it barely touches the water. So delicate that even looking at it feels like a form of gentleness. Perhaps you might notice the muscles around your eyes growing softer. The fine muscles there, the orbicularis oculi, are among the most expressive in the body. Let them rest. Let your gaze, even behind closed eyelids, become unfocused and still. And in the fragrance of the rose, science and poetry meet, both agreeing, quietly, that beauty itself can be a form of medicine. The olfactory bulb is one of the few brain regions that grows new neurons throughout your entire life. Most regions of the adult brain have limited capacity for generating new neurons. But the olfactory bulb, the small structure at the front of the brain that processes smell, is a remarkable exception. It continues to produce fresh neurons from stem cells in the subventricular zone throughout your entire lifespan. Research by Lido and colleagues at the Pasteur Institute in Paris has shown that these new neurons help maintain the brain's ability to discriminate between scents and form new olfactory memories. Even in old age, it is like a garden that replants itself. Season after season, new growth emerges quietly, ensuring that the capacity to sense the world never fades entirely. Perhaps you might notice your wrists going limp. The tendons and small muscles there may still be holding the memory of the day's work. Let them release, as though invisible strings have been gently cut. And in this quiet act of renewal, the brain reveals its gentlest secret, that some parts of you are always beginning again, always growing, always ready to notice something new and beautiful in the world. Beeswax candles release subtle compounds that may quietly improve the atmosphere around you. Unlike paraffin candles, which are derived from petroleum, beeswax candles produce negative ions when burned, charged particles that have been associated with improved air quality and a subtle sense of well-being. The warm, honey-like scent of beeswax also activates olfactory pathways associated with comfort and nostalgia. Research published in the International Journal of Environmental Research has shown that negative ion exposure is correlated with reduced markers of stress and improved mood, though the mechanisms are still being explored. Imagine a single beeswax candle burning on a windowsill at dusk. The flame barely flickers. The light is golden and warm, and the scent, faintly sweet, faintly ancient, fills the room like a quiet blessing. Perhaps you might notice the temperature of the air around you. It may feel warmer now, or softer, as though the atmosphere itself has settled into a gentler state. And in this small flame, burning slowly and steadily, there is a reminder that light does not need to be bright to be comforting, and warmth does not need to be fierce to be felt. The scent of freshly baked bread activates comfort and nostalgia at the same time. When bread bakes, it releases a complex bouquet of over 540 volatile compounds, including Maillard reaction products that the brain associates with warmth, nourishment, and home. These compounds activate both the olfactory cortex and the hippocampus simultaneously, triggering not just the perception of smell, but the recall of memories linked to it. A study by the University of South Brittany found that the scent of baking bread made people significantly more likely to help a stranger, suggesting that the fragrance activates not only personal comfort, but a broader sense of generosity and connection. Imagine walking into a kitchen in the early morning, the oven warm, the air thick with the scent of rising dough, and feeling, without knowing why, that everything is exactly as it should be. Perhaps you might notice your whole face softening. Forehead, cheeks, jaw, lips. Let them all release together, like a landscape settling after a long, gentle rain. And in this everyday fragrance, we find something extraordinary. The power to make a stranger feel at home, and to remind you, without words, of every place you have ever felt safe. Sandalwood promotes calm by speaking directly to olfactory receptors deep in the nose. Sandalwood contains alpha-santalol, a compound that interacts with olfactory receptors in a way that promotes sedation without drowsiness. Research has shown that alpha-santalol reduces waking activity in the brain, while simultaneously promoting the kind of quiet alertness that precedes natural sleep. A study at Ruhr University in Bochum, Germany, found that sandalwood fragrance reduced wakefulness by 7% and increased deep sleep phases in subjects sleeping in scented rooms without any conscious awareness of the scent. Imagine a temple in the early evening, where sandalwood incense has been burning so long that the fragrance has become part of the walls themselves. Not strong, not fading, just present, like the memory of a prayer. Perhaps you might notice your toes relaxing. Each one may be holding its own small tension. Let them soften, one at a time, like pebbles settling into warm sand. And in this ancient wood, used in meditation for thousands of years, science finds what contemplatives have always known: that some fragrances do not merely please the nose, but quiet the mind. Your sense of smell grows most sensitive in the evening, as melatonin begins to rise. Olfactory sensitivity follows a circadian rhythm, peaking in the late evening hours, as the pineal gland begins releasing melatonin in response to fading light. The olfactory system sharpens, becoming more attuned to subtle scents in the environment. Researchers at the University of Dresden documented this pattern using olfactory threshold testing across the 24-hour cycle. Evening sensitivity was up to 30% higher than morning levels, suggesting that the nose becomes a more refined instrument precisely when the world is quieting down. It is like a radio gradually tuning itself to a clearer frequency as the background noise of the day fades away, receiving signals it could not have heard in the bustle of the morning. Perhaps you might notice the quiet space inside your mouth, the tongue, the palate, the inner cheeks. They may be holding subtle tension. Let them soften, and let your tongue rest gently against the floor of your mouth. And as evening deepens and melatonin rises, your sense of smell is quietly sharpening, preparing to receive the gentle fragrances of the night with a sensitivity the daytime self could not have matched. In Japanese culture, the art of appreciating incense is called kodo, the way of fragrance. Kodo is one of the three classical arts of Japanese refinement. Alongside the tea ceremony and flower arrangement, practitioners do not say they smell the incense. They say they listen to it. This distinction reflects a philosophy that fragrance is not merely a sensation, but a form of communication, a subtle language that speaks to the soul. The practice dates back over 1,000 years. Small pieces of rare wood are heated gently, not burned, and participants sit in quiet contemplation, allowing the fragrance to arrive on its own terms, without haste or expectation. Imagine sitting in a room with bare wooden floors and paper walls, where the only sound is your own breathing and the only presence is a thin ribbon of fragrant smoke rising from a small ceramic cup. Perhaps you might notice the space between your eyebrows. In many traditions, this is considered a point of inner stillness. Let it soften. Let the area feel open and smooth. And in this ancient practice of listening to fragrance, we find an invitation to slow down, to be still, and to receive the world not as noise to be filtered, but as music to be heard. Eucalyptus opens the airways and signals to the brain that breathing is easy. Eucalyptol, the primary compound in eucalyptus oil, stimulates cold-sensitive receptors in the nasal passages, the same receptors activated by menthol. This creates a sensation of openness and clarity in the airways, even before any physical change has occurred. The brain interprets this signal as easier breathing, which in turn promotes a sense of calm. A study at the University of Vienna found that eucalyptal inhalation reduced respiratory effort and increased subjective feelings of relaxation within 5 minutes. The effect was strongest when subjects were already in a resting state. Imagine stepping outside after a rain shower into a grove of eucalyptus trees. The air is cool and clean, carrying a sharpness that opens something deep inside your chest. Not urgently, but gently, like a window being lifted. Perhaps you might notice your breathing becoming slightly deeper now. Not forced, not deliberate, just a natural deepening, as if the body has decided on its own that it is safe to take in more air. And in this single molecule, the body receives a simple message that the air is clear, the way is open, and there is nothing to do except breathe. Cinnamon has been linked to warmth and comfort across dozens of cultures worldwide. Cinnamaldehyde, the compound responsible for cinnamon's distinctive fragrance, activates a receptor called TRPA1, a thermal sensor that creates a perception of warmth even at room temperature. This means that smelling cinnamon literally makes the brain believe the environment is warmer than it is. Cross-cultural studies at the University of Oxford have found that cinnamon is one of the most universally associated scents with feelings of warmth, safety, and home, appearing in comfort traditions, from Scandinavian glögg to Indian chai to Middle Eastern sweets. Imagine a kitchen on a cold evening, where cinnamon sticks simmer in a pot of warm cider. The fragrance curls through the room like a gentle hand, touching everything with warmth. Perhaps you might notice a warmth spreading through your own body now. It may be in your chest, your hands, or your face. Let it spread wherever it wishes. Warmth is simply the body's way of saying it is at ease. And across every culture, in every kitchen, through every season of cold, cinnamon has carried the same quiet message: you are warm, you are safe, you are home. Your olfactory receptors quietly renew themselves every 30 to 60 days. Unlike most neurons, olfactory receptor cells have a limited lifespan, typically 30 to 60 days, but the body continuously replaces them with fresh cells generated from basal stem cells in the nasal epithelium. This constant renewal ensures that your sense of smell remains functional throughout your life. Research at Johns Hopkins University has mapped this regeneration process in detail, showing that new olfactory neurons must grow axons that extend through the cribriform plate of the skull and connect precisely to the olfactory bulb, a journey completed anew every month. It is like a garden where every flower blooms for a season, fades, and is quietly replaced by a new bud, so seamlessly that the garden appears unchanged, always in bloom, always alive. Perhaps you might notice your fingers relaxing. Each finger may be curled slightly, holding the ghost of the day's grip. Let them straighten gently, opening like small flowers toward the warmth. And in this quiet cycle of renewal, hidden deep within your nose, the body performs a small miracle every month, rebuilding from scratch your capacity to perceive the invisible world of fragrance. The deep link between scent and emotion was first described scientifically over a century ago. In 1896, the French neurologist Paul Broca identified the olfactory system's intimate connection to the limbic brain and coined the term limbic lobe. He recognized that the structures processing smell were the same structures processing emotion, a finding that has been confirmed and deepened by every generation of neuroscience since. This connection is not incidental. Evolutionary neuroscientists at the University of California have argued that the limbic system itself evolved from olfactory processing circuits in early vertebrates, meaning that emotion, in a sense, grew out of smell. Imagine a river that carved a valley millions of years ago, and in that valley, cities were eventually built. The river is smell. The cities are emotion, memory, and everything you feel. Perhaps you might notice the back of your head resting heavily on the pillow or surface beneath it. Let it sink a little deeper. Let the weight of the day transfer from your skull to whatever holds you. And in this century-old insight, we find a truth as old as biology itself, that the nose and the heart have always been neighbors, sharing a wall so thin that what one perceives, the other cannot help but feel. Hospitals using lavender diffusion report noticeably lower patient anxiety before medical procedures. In surgical waiting areas and pre-operative rooms, the introduction of ambient lavender has been shown to reduce patient anxiety without any additional intervention. The scent works through the olfactory limbic pathway, lowering amygdala activation and shifting the autonomic nervous system toward its calming branch. A systematic review published in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine found that lavender aromatherapy reduced preoperative anxiety scores by an average of 20% across 12 clinical trials involving over 800 patients. Imagine a hospital corridor where the air carries just the faintest trace of lavender, not strong enough to identify, but present enough to soften the edges of worry, to make the sterile environment feel just slightly more human. Perhaps you might notice your entire body settling deeper now, not dramatically, but gradually, as though every part of you has agreed, quietly and unanimously, that it is safe to rest. And in these clinical spaces, where anxiety runs high and comfort is scarce, a single flower's fragrance does what technology alone cannot. It whispers to the frightened brain that there is still gentleness in the world. As these scents drift through your imagination, your breathing may already be slowing. You have now traveled through 25 landscapes of fragrance, from lavender fields to rain-soaked earth, from ancient cedar forests to candle-lit rooms, and though none of these scents are physically present, your brain has been responding as though they were. This is the power of olfactory imagery, the ability of the mind to simulate scent so vividly that the body shifts in response. Research at the Weizmann Institute of Science has demonstrated that imagined scents activate the primary olfactory cortex at reduced but measurable levels. The brain does not perfectly distinguish between a scent that is present and one that is deeply imagined. Imagine all these fragrances blending into a single, indescribable warmth. A scent that does not belong to any single flower or spice, but to the quiet feeling of being at peace. Perhaps you might take one slow, gentle breath now. Not deep, not forced. Just one breath that honors the passage you have just made through the world of scent. And as this olfactory doorway gently closes behind you, another begins to open. The doorway of sound, where the world has been singing you towards sleep since before you were born. In frequencies and rhythms your ears have always known how to trust. Your brain continues to listen to the world even while you are deeply asleep. Sleep does not silence the ears. Even in the deepest stages of non-REM sleep, auditory signals continue to travel from the cochlea, through the brainstem, and into the cortex. The brain remains a vigilant listener, processing sounds, evaluating them for relevance, and deciding, moment by moment, whether you need to wake. Research by Portas and colleagues at the Wellcome Department of Cognitive Neurology in London used functional MRI to show that the sleeping brain responds differently to familiar and unfamiliar sounds. Meaningful stimuli, like your own name, produced robust cortical activation even during deep sleep, while meaningless sounds were filtered away. Imagine a lighthouse keeper dozing in a chair beside the lamp. The keeper's eyes are closed, but the ears remain open, listening for the one sound that matters, while letting all others drift past like waves against the rocks below. Perhaps you might notice the sounds in your own environment right now, not judging them, not trying to change them, simply letting them be there, as distant and unthreatening as clouds passing overhead. And somewhere deep within your sleeping brain, a gentle sentinel keeps watch, listening not for danger, but for the quiet confirmation that the world outside is safe enough to dream in. The thalamus acts as a gentle gatekeeper, deciding which sounds reach your sleeping mind. During wakefulness, the thalamus relays virtually all sensory information to the cortex. But as you transition into sleep, this relay station begins to close its gates. It becomes selective, allowing through only the sounds that carry biological significance while muffling everything else. Neuroscientist Giulio Tononi at the University of Wisconsin-Madison has described this process as thalamic gating, a mechanism that protects the sleeping brain from being overwhelmed by irrelevant input while preserving its ability to respond to genuine threats. It is like a trusted companion who sits beside you while you rest, gently turning away every visitor who might disturb your sleep, but ready to wake you if something truly needs your attention. Perhaps you might notice your breathing settling into a slower rhythm, each inhale a little longer than the last, each exhale a little softer. There is no right speed, just the pace your body chooses when it is not being asked to do anything else. And behind this gentle gate, your brain creates a sanctuary of silence, not the absence of sound, but the careful curation of it, letting through only what is soft and safe and kind. Your brain can recognize your own name during sleep while letting other sounds drift past. Of all the sounds the sleeping brain might respond to, your own name is among the most powerful. Studies using electroencephalography have shown that hearing one's own name during sleep produces a distinctive neural signature, a P300 response, that is absent when other names are spoken. Research at the University of Liège in Belgium confirmed that this name recognition response persists across all stages of sleep, including deep slow-wave sleep. The brain treats your name as a biological priority, a signal that cuts through the thalamic gate when almost nothing else can. Imagine being in a vast, quiet library where 1,000 conversations murmur softly in the background. You hear none of them. But then, from somewhere across the room, someone speaks your name, and your whole being turns toward the sound, without effort, without choice. Perhaps you might notice the weight of your head on the pillow. It is heavier now than when you first lay down. Let it be heavy. Let the pillow receive every ounce of the day's weight. And in this beautiful selectivity, the sleeping brain reveals its priorities. It does not listen for everything, only for the sounds that mean you are needed, or loved, or called by name. A heartbeat is the very first rhythm any human being ever hears. Long before a baby is born, the sound of the parent's heartbeat is a constant companion. At roughly 60 to 80 beats per minute, this rhythm is the first pulse of the external world that the developing brain encounters. A steady, predictable sound that becomes synonymous with safety itself. Research at the University of British Columbia has shown that recordings of heartbeat sounds reduce crying in newborns by up to 40% and promote deeper, more sustained sleep. The rhythm does not need to be loud. It simply needs to be present. A background pulse that the body recognizes as the sound of being alive and held. Imagine a drum beating softly in a distant room, so steady and so quiet that you almost forget it is there. And yet, if it stopped, you would notice immediately. That is the heartbeat. Perhaps you might notice your own heartbeat now, not searching for it, but simply allowing yourself to become aware of it. The gentle, persistent rhythm that has accompanied you every moment of your life. And in this first sound, heard before sight, before touch, before language, we find the origin of all rhythm, and perhaps the reason why a steady, gentle beat still lulls us toward sleep. Pink noise, slightly deeper than white noise, has been shown to deepen and stabilize sleep. White noise contains all frequencies at equal intensity. Pink noise, by contrast, emphasizes lower frequencies while reducing higher ones, creating a deeper, warmer sound, like a steady rainfall or a distant waterfall. This spectral profile more closely matches the natural fluctuations of brain activity during sleep. A study published in Frontiers in Human Neuroscience found that subjects exposed to pink noise during sleep showed a 23% increase in deep slow-wave sleep and performed significantly better on memory following morning. The noise appeared to synchronize with the brain's natural oscillations, gently reinforcing them. Imagine the sound of rain falling on a tin roof, not the sharp patter of individual drops, but the deep, blended wash of 1,000 drops merging into one continuous, soothing hum. Perhaps you might notice the muscles around your ears and jaw softening. These small muscles often tense when we are listening intently. Let them release. You do not need to listen carefully tonight. Just let the sounds arrive. And in this gentle spectrum of sound, deeper and warmer than ordinary noise, the brain finds a rhythm it can lean into, a rhythm that carries it, gently, into the deepest chambers of sleep. Nature sounds reduce the body's stress response within just a few quiet minutes. The sounds of the natural world, bird song, flowing water, wind through trees, gentle rain, have been shown to shift the autonomic nervous system from sympathetic dominance toward parasympathetic activation. This shift happens quickly, often within 3 to 5 minutes of exposure. Researchers at Brighton and Sussex Medical School used functional MRI to demonstrate that natural sounds decreased the brain's default mode network activity, the network associated with rumination and self-referential worry, while simultaneously increasing parasympathetic tone as measured by heart rate variability. Imagine sitting beside a stream in a forest clearing. The water moves without urgency. The leaves stir without purpose. And somewhere inside you, a tension you did not know you were carrying begins to loosen, like a knot untied by invisible hands. Perhaps you might notice your stomach relaxing. The gut carries more tension than most people realize, a kind of quiet clenching that responds beautifully to safety. Let it soften. Let it feel warm and still. And in the sounds that nature has been making for millions of years before any human ear existed to hear them, the body finds something it has always recognized. A soundtrack of safety, older than language, older than thought. The sound of flowing water activates ancient rest pathways deep within the brain. Running water produces a broadband sound spectrum, meaning it contains a wide range of frequencies simultaneously. This spectral richness effectively masks sudden environmental noises while providing the brain with a steady, predictable auditory environment. Evolutionarily, the sound of water also signaled proximity to a resource essential for survival. Acoustic ecologist Gordon Hempton has recorded natural water sounds across dozens of environments and found that the brain's stress response consistently decreases in their presence. Cortisol drops, blood pressure lowers, breathing deepens. Imagine a mountain stream finding its way over smooth stones, each small cascade creating its own voice, blending with 100 others into a single, continuous song that asks nothing of you except that you listen. Perhaps you might notice the soles of your feet growing warmer. As the body's stress response diminishes, blood flow to the extremities increases. Warm feet are one of the earliest signs that the parasympathetic system is gaining ground. And in the voice of flowing water, the brain hears something ancient, not a command to relax, but a gentle suggestion that the world is abundant, that safety is nearby, and that there is nothing left to search for tonight. A cat's purr vibrates at frequencies between 25 and 50 hertz, the same range that promotes tissue healing. The domestic cat's purr is not merely a sign of contentment. It is a biomechanical phenomenon, a rhythmic vibration produced by the laryngeal muscles at frequencies between 25 and 50 hertz. These frequencies fall within the range that scientific research has associated with bone density improvement, pain reduction, and tissue repair. Research published in the Journal of the Acoustical Society of America confirmed that cats purr at consistent frequencies regardless of emotional state, suggesting that purring may serve a self-healing function as well as a communicative one. Imagine a cat curled on your chest on a quiet evening, its body warm against yours. And from deep within its throat comes a vibration so gentle it feels like the hum of the earth itself. Steady, low, and endlessly patient. Perhaps you might notice the space around your heart softening, the chest wall, the muscles between the ribs, the tissue around the sternum. Let them all ease, as though a gentle vibration is loosening everything from within. And in this small, purring body, we find a healer who works not with words or medicine, but with vibration alone. A frequency so perfectly calibrated that both the cat and the human are made calmer by its song. Whale songs travel thousands of miles through the ocean in long, unhurried melodies. The songs of humpback whales are among the most complex vocalizations in the animal kingdom. A single song can last up to 30 minutes and travel through the ocean for distances exceeding 3,000 kilometers. These songs are not random. They follow structured patterns with phrases, themes, and variations that evolve slowly over time. Marine biologist Roger Payne, who first recorded whale songs in 1967, described them as the longest and most elaborate songs produced by any animal on Earth. Their low frequencies, between 20 and 200 Hz, propagate through water with remarkable efficiency. Imagine the deep ocean at night, black and infinite and still, and through that darkness, a song moves like a slow wave, carrying its unhurried melody across distances that would take a human weeks to cross. Perhaps you might notice your legs growing heavier, from the thighs to the calves to the ankles. Let them feel as though they are sinking slowly into warm, dark water, supported, weightless, drifting. And in these ancient songs, sung by creatures who have known the deep for 50 million years, we hear something that transcends species, a melody that says, "I am here, somewhere in the vastness, and you are not alone." Rain is soothing because it contains no sudden changes, just a steady, predictable wash of sound. The brain's stress response is triggered primarily by novelty and unpredictability. Rain, by its nature, produces a continuous, statistically stationary sound, meaning its acoustic properties remain consistent over time. There are no sudden shifts in volume, no unexpected peaks, no jarring interruptions. This consistency allows the brain to habituate quickly, effectively treating rain as safe background. Acousticians at the Technical University of Denmark have measured the spectral characteristics of rainfall and found that it closely approximates pink noise, the same frequency profile shown to deepen sleep in laboratory studies. Imagine lying beneath a roof while rain falls steadily outside. Each drop is unique, yet the whole is unchanging. A paradox of individuality within sameness that the brain finds deeply, inexplicably comforting. Perhaps you might notice your arms growing heavier against whatever surface supports them. Let them go limp. Let them feel as though they could not be lifted, even if you tried. Though of course they could, whenever you wished. And in the steady voice of rain, the brain finds what it has been searching for all day: a world without surprises, without demands, without anything that requires a response. Just sound, just steadiness, just peace. Lullabies exist in every human culture ever studied, a truly universal language of comfort. Anthropologists have found lullabies in every culture documented, from the Arctic Inuit to the Aboriginal Australians, from ancient Sumerian texts to modern urban nurseries. No human society has ever existed without songs designed to soothe children to sleep. Researchers at Harvard University's Music Lab analyzed lullabies from over 80 cultures and found remarkable consistencies, simple melodies, repetitive structures, slow tempos, and descending pitch contours. These features appear independently across cultures, suggesting they are rooted not in tradition but in biology. Imagine a parent humming softly to a child in a darkened room. The melody simple, the rhythm slow, the voice warm. This scene has been repeated billions of times across thousands of years, in every language, on every continent. Perhaps you might notice your eyelids growing heavier. They may wish to close now, or they may already be closed. Either way is perfectly fine. Let them rest in whichever position feels most natural. And in this universal tradition, we find the deepest proof that music is not merely entertainment. It is medicine, as old as parenthood itself, prescribed in the same gentle dose by every culture the world has ever known. Most lullabies match a resting heart rate of about 60 to 80 beats per minute. The tempo of lullabies across cultures clusters remarkably tightly around 60 to 80 beats per minute, the same range as a resting adult heart rate. This is not coincidence. Research has shown that external rhythms close to the body's natural tempo can entrain physiological processes, gradually pulling heart rate and breathing into synchrony with the music. Neuroscientist Jessica Grahn at Western University in Ontario has demonstrated that rhythmic auditory stimulation at this tempo increases parasympathetic tone and reduces galvanic skin response, both markers of deepening relaxation. Imagine a metronome ticking softly at the pace of a resting heart, not fast enough to energize, not slow enough to feel unnatural, but exactly the pace at which the body naturally settles when it has nothing left to do. Perhaps you might notice the rhythm of your own breathing aligning with something quiet and steady. Perhaps the pace of these words, perhaps the pulse of your own heart, perhaps something even deeper that you cannot name. And in this convergence of rhythm and rest, the body discovers what every lullaby has always known, that the shortest path to sleep follows the beat of the heart itself. People can identify a song as a lullaby even when they cannot understand the words. In experiments conducted at Harvard's Music Lab, participants from dozens of countries were played short recordings of songs from unfamiliar cultures. Without knowing the language or the context, listeners consistently identified lullabies with accuracy far above chance. Something in the melodic structure itself, the slow tempo, the descending contours, the gentle repetition, communicated its purpose across all linguistic barriers. This finding suggests that the acoustic signature of a lullaby is universal, not culturally learned, but biologically recognized. The ear knows what a lullaby sounds like before the mind has time to analyze it. It is like the way a warm blanket comforts regardless of its color or pattern. The body does not need to understand the design to feel the warmth. Perhaps you might notice the muscles of your face relaxing completely. The forehead, the cheeks, the jaw, the tiny muscles around your lips. Let them all soften together until your face feels smooth and open and at peace. And in this wordless recognition, we see that comfort has its own grammar. A grammar the body speaks fluently, even when the mind has never learned the language. Two slightly different tones played together can gently encourage the brain towards sleep waves. When two tones of slightly different frequencies are played separately into each ear, the brain perceives a third tone, a gentle pulsing at the difference between the two frequencies. This phenomenon, known as binaural beating, has been studied for its potential to influence brainwave activity. Research at the National College of Natural Medicine found that binaural beats in the delta range, 1 to 4 Hz, the frequency of deep sleep, produced measurable increases in delta wave activity and improvements in subjective sleep quality when played for 30 minutes before bedtime. Imagine 2 distant bells ringing at almost the same pitch, close enough to blend, but different enough to create a gentle wavering between them, a soft pulse that seems to breathe on its own. Perhaps you might notice a quiet stillness settling over your thoughts. Not emptiness, just a slowing, like a river widening as it approaches a calm and distant sea. And in this subtle interplay of frequencies, the brain is gently invited, not forced, not commanded, but invited to slow its rhythms, to deepen its waves, and to drift toward the quiet shores of sleep. Wind through leaves produces frequencies that naturally promote alpha brainwaves. The rustling of leaves in a gentle breeze generates a frequency spectrum centered around 8 to 12 Hz, a range that corresponds precisely to alpha wave activity in the brain. Alpha waves are associated with a relaxed but wakeful state, the transitional zone between alertness and drowsiness that precedes sleep onset. Research at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute showed that exposure to natural wind-in-leaf sounds increased alpha wave power in electroencephalography readings within minutes, particularly in the posterior regions of the brain associated with visual processing and spatial relaxation. Imagine a grove of birch trees in the late afternoon, their thin, papery leaves trembling in a breeze so gentle you can barely feel it on your skin. And yet the sound fills the whole clearing with a soft, whispering rustle that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Perhaps you might notice a softness spreading behind your eyes. The visual processing areas of the brain are quieting now. You do not need to see anything. Let the darkness behind your eyelids feel spacious and warm. And in the voice of wind through leaves, the brain finds a frequency it has known for millennia. A natural invitation to let go of focus, let go of effort, and simply drift. Silence itself is processed by the brain as a meaningful event. The mind notices when the world grows still. Silence is not merely the absence of sound. Neuroscience has revealed that the brain actively processes silence, treating it as a distinct auditory event. When a sound stops unexpectedly, the auditory cortex produces a response called the offset response, a neural marker that indicates the brain has registered the arrival of quiet. A study at Duke University found that 2 minutes of silence produced more prolonged relaxation effects than listening to calming music. The researchers hypothesized that silence, being unexpected in a noisy world, triggers a deeper attentional reset than any sound could achieve. Imagine the moment after a bell has been struck and the last vibration fades into nothing. That instant, when the sound is gone, but the echo lingers in your mind, is when silence becomes its own presence, its own gentle companion. Perhaps you might notice the quiet around you deepening, not as an absence, but as a presence, a soft, enveloping stillness that holds everything within it without disturbing a thing. And in this silence, the brain discovers something unexpected, that the most restful sound of all may be no sound at all, just the gentle, infinite hush of the world taking a breath. 2 minutes of complete silence has been measured as more relaxing than specifically designed calming music. In a study at Duke University, researcher Imke Kirste played subjects a series of sounds, including Mozart, ambient noise, and white noise, interspersed with periods of silence, the silence intervals, lasting just 2 minutes, produced the most significant drops in blood pressure and the greatest increases in relaxation markers, surpassing every sound tested. More remarkably, the silent intervals triggered neurogenesis in the hippocampus of mice in a parallel study, suggesting that silence may actively stimulate brain growth in regions associated with memory and emotion. Imagine a concert hall after the last note has been played, when the audience holds its breath and the silence itself becomes a kind of music, richer and more moving than anything the instruments could produce. Perhaps you might allow the sounds around you to recede, not blocking them, not resisting them, but simply allowing them to move to the very edge of your awareness, where they become as faint and gentle as stars at dawn. And in this paradox, that silence heals more deeply than sound. We find a truth the noisy world has forgotten, that sometimes the greatest gift is simply the permission to be quiet. Inside your ear, tiny hair cells sway like underwater plants in response to every sound. Deep within the cochlea, a spiral-shaped structure no larger than a pea, approximately 15,000 hair cells, translate sound waves into electrical signals. These cells are arranged in rows along the basilar membrane, each one tuned to respond to a specific frequency. When sound enters the ear, the fluid inside the cochlea vibrates, and these hair cells bend in response, converting mechanical energy into the neural impulses that become hearing. Electron microscopy at the National Institute on Deafness has revealed that these stereocilia are exquisitely delicate, each one thinner than a wavelength of visible light, swaying in response to vibrations measured in nanometers. Imagine a garden at the bottom of a crystal-clear pool, where tiny fronds sway gently in currents too subtle for the eye to see, each one bending and returning, in an endless, silent dance. Perhaps you might notice the space inside your ears themselves. There is a warmth there, a quiet hum of awareness. Let it be. Let it simply exist, without trying to hear anything in particular. And deep within this tiny structure, smaller than a pearl, an entire orchestra of perception plays on, translating the vibrations of the world into the music of your experience. The vagus nerve carries auditory signals directly to the body's rest and digest center. The vagus nerve, the longest cranial nerve in the body, has branches that extend into the ear canal and respond to specific types of auditory input. When soothing sounds are detected, these auricular branches relay signals downward through the vagus to the heart, lungs, and digestive system, promoting a cascade of parasympathetic responses. Research at the University of Leeds has demonstrated that transcutaneous vagus nerve stimulation through the ear can lower heart rate, improve heart rate variability, and reduce markers of inflammation, all through gentle activation of this single nerve. Imagine a golden thread that runs from inside your ear all the way down through your throat, past your heart, through your lungs, and into your belly. And when a gentle sound passes through the ear, it plucks this thread like a harp string, sending a quiet vibration of calm through your entire body. Perhaps you might notice the area around your throat softening. The throat carries more emotional tension than we realize. Let it open, gently, as though a warm breath is passing through it. And through this remarkable nerve, the ear and the body speak to each other constantly. And what the ear hears as soothing, the body feels as peace. Humming quietly activates the vagus nerve and increases calm throughout the body. The act of humming creates a vibration in the larynx and nasal cavity that stimulates the vagus nerve from the inside. This stimulation triggers parasympathetic activation, lowering heart rate, deepening breathing, and promoting the production of nitric oxide in the sinuses, which has vasodilatory and calming effects. A study published in the International Journal of Yoga found that participants who hummed for 5 minutes showed significant increases in heart rate variability and significant decreases in perceived stress compared to silent breathing alone. Imagine the hum of a bee moving slowly through a summer garden. Not urgent, not loud, just a gentle, continuous vibration that seems to make the flowers themselves lean closer to listen. Perhaps you might notice the vibration of your own breath as it passes through your nose and throat. Even without humming, each breath creates its own small resonance. A quiet hum, too subtle to hear, but present enough to feel. And in this simplest of all sounds, the hum of your own voice, the vagus nerve receives a direct message of safety, delivered not from outside, but from within. Ocean waves follow a rhythm of about 12 cycles per minute, matching the pace of peaceful breathing. The average ocean wave arrives at the shore approximately once every 5 seconds, creating a rhythm of about 12 cycles per minute. This frequency corresponds closely to the respiratory rate of a relaxed human being, 12 to 16 breaths per minute at rest. Marine scientists at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography have documented this consistency across oceans and seasons. The rhythm of the waves is driven by wind, gravitational forces, and the shape of the coastline, producing a tempo that is remarkably stable and predictable. Imagine standing at the edge of the sea at dusk, where each wave arrives with a gentle hush and retreats with a soft sigh. A breathing sound so perfectly matched to your own that after a few minutes, you cannot tell where the ocean's breath ends and yours begins. Perhaps you might notice your breathing settling into something slower and deeper now. Not because you are trying, but because your body has found its own natural pace. The pace it returns to when nothing is being asked of it. And in this ancient rhythm, repeated billions of times along every coastline on Earth, the ocean offers a lullaby that needs no words, just the endless, patient conversation between water and shore. Singing bowls produce layered tones that gradually slow the rhythm of your brain. Tibetan singing bowls produce a rich spectrum of overtones, multiple frequencies sounding simultaneously from a single struck or rubbed bowl. These layered harmonics create a complex acoustic environment that the brain processes differently from simple tones, engaging multiple auditory regions at once and gradually entraining brainwave activity toward lower frequencies. A study at the University of California, San Diego, found that participants who attended a 60-minute singing bowl meditation session showed significant reductions in tension, anger, fatigue, and depression. The greatest improvements were seen in participants who had no prior meditation experience. Imagine a bronze bowl resting in the palm of a hand, and when a wooden mallet is drawn slowly around its rim, the bowl begins to sing. Not one note, but many, layered and shimmering like light reflecting off moving water. Perhaps you might notice your thoughts beginning to slow, not disappearing, just moving more gently, with greater space between them, like boats drifting on a wide, calm river. And in these ancient bowls, cast centuries ago in the mountains of Tibet, we find a technology as simple as it is profound. The knowledge that certain sounds can quiet the mind without a single word being spoken. Babies in the womb can hear muffled voices and music filtering in from the outside world. By the 24th week of gestation, the fetal auditory system is sufficiently developed to detect sounds from outside the womb. These sounds arrive muffled, filtered through amniotic fluid and tissue, but they arrive nonetheless. The developing brain processes them, forms preferences, and begins to recognize familiar patterns. Research at the University of Helsinki demonstrated that newborns showed stronger neural responses to melodies they had heard repeatedly during the third trimester, compared to novel melodies. The brain had begun learning before birth. Imagine lying at the bottom of a warm, gentle sea, where the sounds of the world above reach you as soft, distant echoes, muffled but present, like music heard through the walls of a quiet room. Perhaps you might notice how distant the sounds around you feel now. Not gone, just softened, as though they have been filtered through something warm and kind, reaching you as gentle impressions rather than sharp signals. And in the womb, before eyes have ever opened, before hands have ever reached, the ears are already learning, already knowing the voices that will become the soundtrack of a new life. The gentle crackling of a fire mimics the kind of unpredictable yet safe patterns the brain finds most soothing. A crackling fire produces a specific type of sound pattern known as 1/F noise, a mathematical relationship where lower frequencies are louder and more common, while higher frequencies are quieter and rarer. This pattern sits between the pure randomness of white noise and the rigid predictability of a metronome, creating a sound that is variable enough to hold attention but consistent enough to feel safe. Research at the University of Alabama found that exposure to crackling fire sounds lowered blood pressure by an average of 5% in subjects who listened for 15 minutes. The effect was attributed to the evolutionary association between fire and safety. Historically, fire meant warmth, protection from predators, and community. Imagine sitting before a hearth on a cold evening, where the fire pops and crackles softly, sending small showers of sparks upward into the chimney. Each sound slightly different, yet all part of the same warm, reassuring conversation. Perhaps you might notice a feeling of warmth spreading through your core. It may be subtle, just the faintest glow in the center of your body. Let it be there. Let it radiate outward at its own gentle pace. And in the voice of fire, we hear what our ancestors heard for hundreds of thousands of years. The sound of safety, the sound of warmth, the sound of being home. As these sounds settle around you, perhaps the edges of the day begin to soften. You have traveled now through the world of sound, from the thalamic gate that protects your sleeping mind, to the universal lullaby that every culture sings, to the ancient rhythms of ocean waves and crackling fire. And though these sounds exist only in your imagination tonight, your brain has been responding to each one, lowering its guard, softening its rhythms, drifting gently toward the threshold of sleep. Research on auditory imagery at the Max Planck Institute has confirmed that vividly imagined sounds activate the auditory cortex at measurable levels. The brain does not fully distinguish between a sound that fills the room and a sound that fills the mind. Imagine all these sounds blending into a single, soft tapestry. The rain and the waves, the heartbeat and the fire, the wind and the singing bowl, all merging into one gentle, indistinguishable hum that carries you forward. Perhaps you might notice that your body feels different now than it did when we began. Heavier, perhaps warmer, softer, whatever you feel, it is exactly right. And as the world of sound gently fades, one last doorway opens. The doorway of weight and pressure and the deep, quiet comfort of being held by the earth itself, where gravity becomes not a force that pulls you down, but a hand that holds you close. Deep, steady pressure against the body activates the parasympathetic nervous system. When gentle, sustained pressure is applied evenly across the body. Mechanoreceptors in the skin and deeper tissues respond by sending signals through the vagus nerve to the brainstem. This triggers a shift from sympathetic dominance, the alert, watchful state, toward parasympathetic activation, the body's rest and digest mode. Heart rate slows, breathing deepens, cortisol begins to fall. Research at the University of Massachusetts Medical School has demonstrated that deep pressure stimulation reduces sympathetic arousal in both children and adults, with measurable changes appearing within as few as 5 minutes of sustained contact. Imagine the feeling of sinking into warm sand on a quiet beach, the weight of the sand conforming gently to every curve of your body, holding you without grasping, supporting you without asking anything in return. Perhaps you might notice the full weight of your body against the surface beneath you right now. Every point of contact, your back, your legs, your arms, is a place where gravity is quietly doing its work, pressing you gently into rest. And in this steady, even pressure, the body hears something ancient, a signal that predates language, predates thought, a signal that simply says, you are held. Weighted blankets have been shown to reduce anxiety by 33%. A randomized controlled trial, published in the Journal of Clinical Sleep Medicine by Eron and colleagues, found that participants who slept under weighted blankets experienced a 33% reduction in anxiety scores compared to those using standard bedding. The weighted blanket group also reported improved sleep quality, fewer nighttime awakenings, and a greater sense of calm upon waking. The mechanism is deep pressure stimulation, the same principle behind swaddling, therapeutic vests, and the instinctive human desire to be held. The weight distributes evenly across the body, engaging proprioceptors and mechanoreceptors that signal safety to the brainstem. Imagine a blanket that feels like a gentle embrace, not heavy enough to restrict, but present enough to remind every part of your body that it is covered, protected, and enclosed in warmth. Perhaps you might notice the weight of whatever covers you right now. A blanket, a sheet, even the warmth of the air itself. Let yourself feel held by it. Let it be enough. And in this simple intervention, a blanket with a little extra weight, science confirms what every child has always known, that being covered, being wrapped, being gently pressed upon, is one of the shortest paths to peace. The ideal calming blanket weighs roughly 10% of your body weight. Occupational therapists have established a guideline that the optimal weight for a calming blanket is approximately 10% of the user's body weight. This ratio provides enough pressure to engage the deep touch receptors without creating discomfort or restricting movement. Research at the Karolinska Institute confirmed this ratio, finding that blankets at 10% body weight produced the greatest increases in melatonin and serotonin, while blankets significantly heavier or lighter showed diminished effects. It is like the way a perfectly tuned instrument resonates. Not too tight, not too loose, but at exactly the tension where the truest, deepest note can ring. Perhaps you might notice the sensation of gravity itself, not as a force pulling you down, but as a gentle hand pressing you into the comfort of wherever you rest. Gravity has been holding you your entire life. Tonight, let it feel like kindness. And in this precise ratio, 10%, no more, no less, the body finds its sweet spot of safety. A pressure so perfectly calibrated that the nervous system cannot help but soften. Swaddling newborns recreates the gentle compression they knew inside the womb. For 9 months before birth, a baby exists in a world of constant, gentle compression. The walls of the womb press inward from every direction, providing continuous deep pressure input that the developing nervous system interprets as safety. Swaddling, wrapping a newborn snugly in a soft cloth, recreates this sensation, and the results are immediate crying decreases, sleep deepens, and heart rate stabilizes. A meta-analysis in pediatrics found that swaddled infants spent significantly more time in quiet sleep and showed fewer startle reflexes compared to unswaddled infants. The containment itself was the calming agent. Imagine being held inside a cocoon of warmth. Not tight, but close. Not confining, but containing, where every surface you touch presses back gently, and the entire world feels small and soft and near. Perhaps you might notice the places where your clothing meets your skin, the gentle pressure of fabric against your arms, your chest, your legs. Even this subtle contact is a form of containment, a quiet reminder that you are enclosed and safe. And in the instinct to swaddle, passed down through every human culture, we see the earliest understanding that before we need food, before we need warmth, we need to feel held. Proprioception, your quiet sense of where your body exists in space, is key to feeling grounded and safe. You have a sense you rarely think about. It is called proprioception, the ability to know where every part of your body is without looking. Receptors in your muscles, tendons, and joints constantly send positional data to the brain, creating an internal map of your body in space. This map is essential for movement, but it serves another, quieter purpose. It provides a continuous sense of physical reality that the brain interprets as groundedness. Research at the University of Oregon has shown that enhanced proprioceptive input through activities like yoga, weighted vests, or simply lying flat on a firm surface reduces anxiety and increases the sense of being present. Imagine the roots of a tree reaching deep into the earth, not visible, but essential, anchoring the trunk through every storm. Proprioception is your body's root system, quietly holding you in place. Perhaps you might notice the weight of your bones right now. Not the muscles, not the skin, but the bones themselves, heavy and solid and still. Let them feel anchored. Let them remind you that you are here, in this body, in this place, and that this place is safe. And through this quiet, invisible sense, the body maintains its connection to the physical world, a connection that whispers, moment by moment, that you are real, you are present, and you belong. Curling into the fetal position sends your brain a signal that translates simply as protection. The fetal position, knees drawn toward the chest, spine gently curved, arms folded inward, is the posture the body returns to instinctively when seeking comfort. It is the position you held for months in the womb, and the body remembers it as the original posture of safety. Neuropsychologist Dr. Chris Idzikowski at the Edinburgh Sleep Centre has found that the fetal position is the most common sleep posture worldwide. Adopted by roughly 41% of adults, the position maximizes skin-to-skin contact with bedding while minimizing exposed surface area, creating both warmth and a sense of enclosure. It is like a flower closing its petals at dusk, not out of fear, but out of the quiet wisdom that some things are best protected by being drawn inward. Perhaps you might notice the curve of your spine. Whether you are lying straight or curled slightly, let it find whatever shape feels most natural. There is no correct posture for rest, only the one your body chooses. And in this ancient posture, repeated billions of times by billions of sleepers, the body speaks its simplest truth, that sometimes the safest place in the world is the one you create by simply drawing yourself in. Astronauts in space use compression garments to prevent the unsettling feeling of weightlessness during sleep. In microgravity, the absence of proprioceptive input creates a disorienting sensation that many astronauts find deeply uncomfortable during sleep. Without the familiar pressure of gravity, the body loses its sense of where it is. To counteract this, astronauts on the International Space Station use specially designed sleep sacks and compression garments that simulate the feeling of being gently pressed from all sides. NASA research published in Aviation, Space, and Environmental Medicine confirmed that compression garments improved both subjective sleep quality and objective sleep duration in astronauts. The body needs to feel weight, even artificial weight, to feel safe enough to rest. Imagine floating in an endless, dark void. Beautiful, perhaps, but without any sensation of up or down, without any surface pressing back against you. And then, imagine a gentle embrace closing around you, giving you edges, giving you place. Perhaps you might notice how reassuring it is to feel the surface beneath you. Solid, steady, unchanging. Gravity is something you have taken for granted your entire life. But tonight, let it feel like a gift. And even in the vast emptiness of space, the human body seeks the same thing it has always sought: the quiet comfort of being pressed gently against something steady and real. Holding a warm mug in your hands activates both temperature and deep pressure sensors simultaneously. When you wrap your hands around a warm ceramic mug, two sensory systems engage at once. Thermoreceptors detect the warmth and send comfort signals through the insular cortex. Simultaneously, the gentle weight and pressure of the mug against your palms activates mechanoreceptors that contribute to a feeling of groundedness and presence. A study at Yale University found that holding a warm object made participants rate strangers as warmer and more trustworthy, suggesting that physical warmth and emotional warmth share neural pathways. The combination of heat and pressure creates a multisensory experience that is greater than either sensation alone. Imagine holding a mug of chamomile tea on a cold evening. The ceramic smooth and warm against your skin. The steam rising gently, carrying with it the faintest scent of flowers. Your hands absorb the warmth, and something inside you softens in response. Perhaps you might notice the temperature of your own hands right now. They may be warm, or cool, or somewhere in between. Whatever they feel, let them rest. Let them be still. And in this simple, everyday ritual, holding something warm and heavy, the body finds a comfort so intuitive that we rarely stop to wonder why it works. But now you know. Gentle, sustained pressure encourages the body to produce more serotonin. Serotonin, the neurotransmitter most closely associated with feelings of well-being and contentment, is produced in greater quantities when the body receives sustained deep pressure input. The mechanoreceptors activated by pressure send signals to the Raphi nuclei in the brainstem, which in turn increases serotonin synthesis. Research at the Touch Research Institute in Miami has consistently shown that massage therapy, weighted blankets, and other forms of sustained pressure increase urinary serotonin metabolites by 15 to 20%. Higher serotonin levels are associated with improved mood, better sleep, and reduced pain sensitivity. Imagine a well that fills slowly but steadily, each drop of water arriving quietly, without fanfare, until the well brims with something cool and nourishing and calm. Perhaps you might notice the backs of your knees softening. They may be slightly braced, holding a tension you did not notice. Let them unlock. Let the muscles there ease, as gently as a door swinging open on quiet hinges. And with each quiet moment of pressure, each place where your body meets the surface beneath you, serotonin is being produced, drop by patient drop, filling the well of your well-being from the inside out. Gravity itself is a form of deep pressure your body has learned to find comforting. From the moment you were born, gravity has been pressing you gently against the earth. Your entire sensory development, your sense of balance, your proprioception, your feeling of being grounded, has been shaped by this constant, invisible force. The body does not experience gravity as a burden. It experiences gravity as presence. Vestibular researchers at Mount Sinai Hospital have shown that the absence of gravitational input, as experienced in flotation tanks or microgravity, initially creates relaxation, but eventually produces anxiety if sustained too long. The body needs gravity the way the mind needs silence. Not as a void, but as a steady, anchoring presence. Imagine the earth itself holding you, not just supporting you, but actively, gently pressing upward against every point of contact, as if to say, I have been holding you since the day you arrived, and I am not letting go. Perhaps you might notice your entire body growing heavier, not with fatigue, but with surrender. Let every muscle, every bone, every cell accept the pull of gravity as an invitation to rest. And in this most constant of all forces, this invisible hand that has held every human being who has ever lived, we find perhaps the deepest comfort of all that you have never, for a single moment, been unsupported. Children who receive firm, gentle hugs during moments of distress, calm significantly faster than those who receive only words. Verbal reassurance is important, but research consistently shows that physical containment, firm, gentle holding, calms a distressed child faster and more completely than words alone. The combination of deep pressure, warmth, and rhythmic breathing creates a multisensory signal that the child's nervous system interprets as safety. A study at the University of Wisconsin-Madison found that children who were held during a stressful task showed cortisol levels that returned to baseline 40% faster than children who received only verbal comfort. The body trusts what it feels more readily than what it hears. It is like the difference between describing a sunset and standing inside one. Both communicate beauty, but only one can be felt in the bones. Perhaps you might notice the rhythm of your own breathing becoming steadier. Each inhale arrives without effort. Each exhale leaves without hurry. This is the rhythm your body finds when it has decided, quietly and completely, that it is safe. And in every parent's instinct to hold a frightened child, we see the body's deepest wisdom, that the most powerful reassurance is not a word, but a warm and steady embrace. Your vestibular system, deep in the inner ear, responds to the feeling of being held steady and still. The vestibular system consists of 3 semicircular canals and 2 otolith organs nestled deep within the inner ear. Together, they detect motion, balance, and spatial orientation. When the body is still and supported, lying flat, or gently rocked, the vestibular system sends signals that promote parasympathetic tone and reduce the brain's alertness. Research at the University of Geneva demonstrated that gentle rocking at a frequency of approximately 0.25 Hz not only accelerated sleep onset, but also increased the duration of deep, slow-wave sleep. The vestibular system interpreted the rhythmic motion as safe containment. Imagine being held in a hammock that sways so gently you can barely feel it. Just the faintest, most patient rhythm, like the breathing of the earth itself. Perhaps you might notice the stillness of your head on the pillow. The vestibular system is quiet now, not sending alerts, not adjusting for movement, simply resting in the calm certainty that you are still and steady and supported. And deep within the labyrinth of your inner ear, a system designed for motion has found something even more satisfying. Perfect, restful stillness. Rocking chairs were once prescribed by doctors as a remedy for nervous conditions. In the 18th and 19th centuries, physicians regularly recommended rocking chairs for patients suffering from anxiety, insomnia, and what was then called nervous exhaustion. The gentle, repetitive motion was observed to calm the mind and promote sleep, an observation that modern neuroscience has since validated. A study published in Current Biology by researchers at the University of Geneva confirmed that rocking motion synchronizes brain oscillations during sleep, enhancing memory consolidation and deepening the sleep state itself. Imagine an old wooden rocking chair on a porch in the late afternoon, its runners creaking softly against the floorboards in a rhythm as steady and patient as a heartbeat. Back and forth, carrying you gently toward a quieter place. Perhaps you might notice a subtle rocking sensation within your own body, the gentle rise and fall of your chest with each breath, creating a rhythm so small and so steady that it becomes a kind of rocking from within. And in this simple piece of furniture, carved from wood and intuition, we find a prescription that has never expired. The knowledge that the human body was made to be gently rocked toward rest. Your sense of taste is quietly connected to comfort through the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve, that long, wandering pathway that links the brain to the heart. It sings, and gut also carries taste signals from the back of the tongue. When you taste something warm and mildly sweet, the vagus nerve relays this information to the brainstem, where it contributes to a global parasympathetic response. Research at the University of Zurich has shown that the act of tasting warm, comforting flavors, such as warm milk, honey, or mild broth, produces measurable decreases in heart rate and increases in digestive motility, both markers of the rest and digest state. Imagine the taste of warm honey dissolving slowly on your tongue. Not sharp, not strong, just a quiet sweetness that spreads gently through your mouth and seems to warm you from the inside out. Perhaps you might notice the inside of your mouth softening. The tongue, the palate, the inner cheeks. Let them all relax. There is nothing to say, nothing to chew, nothing to hold, just softness. And through this overlooked connection, taste to vagus, to calm, the body reminds us that comfort can arrive through the simplest of doors. One warm, gentle flavor at a time. Warm milk contains tryptophan, a gentle building block for both serotonin and melatonin. The tradition of drinking warm milk before bed is far older than the science that explains it. But the science is compelling. Milk contains tryptophan, an essential amino acid that the body converts first into serotonin and then into melatonin, the hormone that signals the brain to prepare for sleep. Research at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology confirmed that tryptophan-rich foods consumed in the evening increase melatonin production within 60 to 90 minutes. The warmth of the milk adds a thermal comfort signal, creating a dual pathway to drowsiness. Imagine a glass of warm milk in the quiet of a kitchen at night. The soft clink of the spoon, the steam rising gently, the first sip spreading warmth from your throat to your stomach like a small sun descending. Perhaps you might notice a warmth in your own stomach. Whether you have eaten recently or not, the center of your body holds its own gentle heat. Let it radiate. Let it soften every organ it touches. And in this grandmother's remedy, so simple it might be dismissed, science finds a genuine pathway to sleep, built from warmth and chemistry and the ancient comfort of being nourished before rest. The umami taste found in warm broth activates the rest and digest pathway. Umami, the fifth taste, described as savory or deeply satisfying, is detected by receptors on the tongue that respond to glutamate, an amino acid abundant in broths, aged cheeses, and mushrooms. When umami is detected, the vagus nerve carries signals that promote gastric relaxation and parasympathetic activation. A study published in the journal Flavor found that umami-rich broth consumed in the evening significantly increased subjective feelings of satiety and relaxation, while reducing nighttime cortisol levels. The researchers described umami as a taste of comfort, a signal that tells the body nourishment has arrived and the search for food can end. Imagine a bowl of warm broth on a cold evening, the steam curling upward, the first sip spreading through your body like a gentle wave of satisfaction that says enough. You have enough. You can rest now. Perhaps you might notice a deep settling in your belly. The gut, sometimes called the second brain, holds over 500 million neurons. Let it feel calm, Let it feel full, even if only with warmth and stillness. And in this ancient taste, found in the first broths ever simmered over the first fires, the body finds permission to stop seeking, stop searching, and simply rest in the quiet abundance of enough. Closing your eyes removes roughly 80% of incoming sensory information. Vision is the most demanding of all your senses, consuming approximately 80% of the brain's sensory processing capacity. When you close your eyes, this enormous stream of data is instantly reduced to near zero. The visual cortex quiets, the thalamus reduces its relay load, and the brain, freed from the constant work of seeing, begins to redirect its resources inward. Research at the Salk Institute has shown that eye closure triggers measurable increases in alpha wave activity, the brain's signature of wakeful relaxation. Within seconds, the simple act of lowering your eyelids is one of the most powerful sensory reduction tools available to you. Imagine a vast, busy marketplace, colorful, noisy, filled with movement. Now imagine a curtain being drawn gently across the scene. The noise fades, the colors disappear, and in their place, a soft, warm darkness that asks nothing of you at all. Perhaps you might notice, if your eyes are closed, how much quieter the world has become. Not silent, but simplified. Reduced to only the most essential information: warmth, weight, breath, and sound. And in this simplest of all gestures, the closing of your eyes, 80% of the world's demands are gently set aside, leaving only the quiet 20% that your resting mind can hold. Dim light signals the pineal gland to begin releasing melatonin within 30 minutes. The pineal gland, a tiny, pinecone-shaped structure at the center of the brain, is your body's master clock for sleep. It monitors light levels through a pathway that runs from the retina to the suprachiasmatic nucleus and then to the pineal gland itself. When light dims, the pineal gland begins synthesizing melatonin, and within 30 minutes, blood melatonin levels rise measurably. Research at Harvard Medical School has confirmed that even moderate reductions in ambient light trigger this cascade. The pineal gland does not require total darkness. Only the absence of bright, blue spectrum light, a dim, warm glow is enough. Imagine the last light of evening fading from a window, not disappearing suddenly, but dimming gradually. The way a candle lowers its flame when the wax is nearly spent. And inside you, in response to this gentle darkening, a chemical messenger begins its quiet work. Perhaps you might notice the darkness around you, or behind your eyelids. Let it feel welcoming. Let it feel like a space that has been prepared for you. Warm, soft, and infinitely patient. And deep within the brain, a gland no larger than a grain of rice reads the fading light and begins its ancient task, preparing your body, molecule by molecule, for the gift of sleep. The color blue has been shown to lower heart rate more than any other color. Research in environmental psychology has consistently found that exposure to blue, particularly soft, muted blues, produces greater reductions in heart rate and blood pressure than any other color. The effect is believed to be linked to evolutionary associations with clear skies and calm water. Environmental cues that historically signaled safety and the absence of threat. A study at the University of Sussex found that participants viewing blue-lit environments showed heart rate reductions of up to 8 beats per minute compared to those viewing red or yellow environments. Imagine the color of a clear sky in the hour before twilight, not the bright blue of midday, but the deeper, softer blue that comes when the sun has dipped below the horizon and the world is preparing for night. Perhaps you might notice the color behind your closed eyelids. It may be dark, or it may carry the faintest wash of color. Whatever you see, let it be soft. Let it be blue, if your mind wishes, or let it be nothing at all. And in this quietest of all colors, the heart finds something it recognizes. The hue of clear skies and still water, the color of safety, the color of peace. Soft fabric against the skin activates gentle touch fibers, even without intentional contact. You do not need to be actively stroked for your tactile afferents to fire. The gentle, continuous contact of soft fabric, a flannel sheet, a cotton pillowcase, a worn linen shirt, provides enough low-level stimulation to engage these comfort-tuned fibers. The signal is subtle but persistent, feeding a steady stream of safety information to the insular cortex. Researchers at Åbo Akademi University in Finland confirmed that passive fabric contact against hairy skin activated tactile fibers at low but sustained levels, producing a baseline state of comfort that participants described as barely noticeable but deeply pleasant. Imagine the feeling of a soft, well-worn sheet against your skin. Not exciting, not dramatic, just quietly, endlessly pleasant, like a whispered conversation that has been going on so long you have forgotten it began. Perhaps you might notice the fabric touching your skin right now, the sleeve against your arm, the collar against your neck, the sheet against your legs. Each point of contact is a small, continuous message of comfort. And in this passive, unnoticed touch, the body finds something remarkable. That comfort does not always arrive as a grand gesture. Sometimes it is simply the fabric you have been wearing all along, quietly holding you in its softness. The feeling of sinking into a mattress engages both proprioceptive and pressure receptors at once. When you lie down on a soft surface, two sensory systems engage simultaneously. Proprioceptors register the change in body position, from vertical to horizontal, and signal the brain that the work of standing is over. Simultaneously, mechanoreceptors across the body's surface respond to the distributed pressure of the mattress, conforming to your shape. Research at the Polytechnic University of Madrid found that body-conforming surfaces produced greater parasympathetic activation than firm, flat surfaces, suggesting that the sensation of being cradled contributes meaningfully to sleep onset. Imagine slowly sinking into a cloud, not falling, but settling as the cloud reshapes itself around you, supporting every curve, filling every gap, until you and it become one continuous surface of warmth. Perhaps you might notice the places where the surface beneath you has shaped itself to your body. The dip beneath your shoulders, the curve beneath your lower back, the cradle beneath your head. You are not just lying on this surface. It is holding you. And in this gentle sinking, the body finds what it has been seeking all day, a place that fits it exactly. A surface that says you do not need to hold yourself up anymore. I will hold you. Your body temperature naturally drops by 1 to 2 degrees as you begin to fall asleep. The onset of sleep is accompanied by a carefully orchestrated drop in core body temperature. typically 1 to 2 degrees Fahrenheit. This cooling is driven by vasodilation in the extremities, particularly the hands and feet, which release excess heat into the environment. The cooler core temperature slows metabolic processes and deepens the brain's transition into sleep. Research at the Netherlands Institute for Neuroscience has shown that even small manipulations in body temperature, such as wearing socks to bed or taking a warm bath before sleep, can accelerate sleep onset by up to 36% by facilitating this natural cooling cascade. Imagine a lake at dusk, its surface gradually cooling as the sun disappears. The water grows still. The warmth seeps gently outward into the evening air. And in this quiet release of heat, the lake becomes peacefully calm. Perhaps you might notice your own temperature shifting. Warmth may be moving to your hands and feet, a sign that your body is preparing for sleep. Let it happen. Let the warmth flow outward like a gentle tide. And in this nightly cooling, a process so gradual you rarely notice it, the body performs its own quiet ritual of preparation, lowering its temperature the way one dims the lights before a long and restful night. Cool air on the face combined with a warm body creates ideal conditions for sleep. Sleep researchers have identified a specific thermal configuration that most powerfully promotes sleep onset: a warm body beneath blankets with a cool face exposed to the ambient air. This combination allows the body to maintain its cozy cocoon of warmth while facilitating the facial cooling that signals the brain to deepen its descent into sleep. A study at the University of South Australia found that subjects who slept with facial cooling reported shorter sleep onset times and increased slow-wave sleep duration. The face contains a dense network of thermoreceptors that communicate directly with the hypothalamus, the brain's temperature regulation center. Imagine lying in a warm bed with a window cracked open to the night air. The blankets hold you in warmth, but a gentle coolness drifts across your forehead, your cheeks, the bridge of your nose, refreshing without chilling, like the first breath of autumn. Perhaps you might notice the air against your face right now. It may be cool, or it may be warm. Either way, let your face be open to it. Let the air touch your skin gently, like a hand resting briefly on your brow before pulling away. And in this simple arrangement, warm below, cool above, the body finds its perfect equilibrium. A thermal lullaby that has been singing people to sleep since the very first night beside the very first fire. Every sense you possess is quietly working together right now, guiding you toward rest. Touch, smell, sound, taste, sight, proprioception, temperature, balance. All of these senses have been flowing through your body as you listened tonight. And though we explored them one by one, in truth they never work alone. They are always blending, always weaving together, creating a single, unified experience of the world. Neuroscientist Charles Spence at the University of Oxford has spent decades studying multisensory integration, the brain's extraordinary ability to combine information from all the senses into one seamless perception. What you experience as comfort is never the product of one sense. It is the harmony of all of them, working together. Imagine an orchestra in which every instrument plays so softly that no single one can be heard alone. And yet together they produce a sound of such richness and warmth that it fills the entire hall with beauty. Perhaps you might notice, right now, the totality of what your body feels. Not one sensation, but all of them, the weight, the warmth, the sounds, the darkness, the stillness, all blending into a single, quiet experience of being here. And in this gentle convergence, every doorway we have walked through tonight, touch, scent, sound, and pressure, opens into the same quiet room, where all your senses agree on a single, wordless truth. It is time to rest. And as you lie here, your senses whisper that it is safe, perfectly, gently safe, to let go. This is the final fact, and perhaps the simplest. Your body already knows what your mind has spent the evening learning. The tactile fibers have been listening. The olfactory pathways have been remembering. The thalamic gate has been guarding. The proprioceptors have been grounding. Every system, every fiber, every ancient pathway within you has been quietly doing its work. Not to keep you awake, but to prepare you for this moment. There is nothing left to learn tonight. Nothing left to do. Nothing left to hold. Every fact you have heard was not new information. It was a reminder of what your body has always known. Imagine a bird that has been flying all day, finally spotting a branch where it can rest. It does not analyze the branch. It does not question whether it is safe. It simply folds its wings, settles its weight, and lets the branch hold it. That is all your body asks of you now. Perhaps you might allow yourself to feel, fully and completely, the permission that this moment offers. You have done enough today. You have been enough today. And now, gently, gratefully, you can let go. And your senses, every one of them, whisper in unison, rest now, rest. And so we come to the end of our journey tonight. A journey not through distant lands or unfamiliar places, but through the quiet landscape of your own body, through the gentle fibers beneath your skin that listen for tenderness, through the ancient shortcut that carries scent straight to the heart of memory, through the thalamic gate that guards your sleep with a watchman's patient care, and through the deep, steady pressure of a world that has never stopped holding you. Your senses are not merely tools. They are companions, old, patient, and wise. They have been with you since before you drew your first breath, and they will stay with you long after the last word of this recording has faded. If you are still awake, that is perfectly fine. Let these words settle around you like a blanket. There is no need to replay them, no need to remember them. They have already done their quiet work, sinking gently into the body that was always ready to receive them. And if you are already drifting, then these last words are just for the part of you that still listens, the part that hears even while the rest of you sleeps. You are held by gravity, by warmth, by the gentle, persistent language of your senses. You are surrounded by comfort so ancient and so constant that most of the time you forget it is there. But it is there. It has always been there. So let your eyes stay closed. Let your breathing carry you. Let the weight of this quiet night press you gently into the arms of sleep. Good night. Dear listener, your senses will keep watch. You can rest now.